right, we are live. We are missing Lisa, and we are only down to three of us left in the streaming portion of Bookcraft right now. So, missing anybody makes a difference. She's probably like hastily trying to finish her reading, which is more than I did because I didn't finish.
Or deal with her blind dog.
Yeah.
One of the two.
We'll give her a few minutes. Well, while we are giving her a few minutes, I wanted to talk about a thing, show a thing. So when I first started learning wire wrapping and silversmithing, it was in part inspired by the lady who made these earrings with paw prints.
Oh, they're so cute.
And they are one single piece of 20 gauge wire that wraps around itself so that the post is part of the same wire that forms the front. So there's nothing like
cool.
welded together or anything. And so I wanted to make some kitty earrings for my niece, but she only likes studs. She doesn't like bangles. So I want to try to do that same style to make something cat-like. So that's what I am endeavoring to do tonight, but I did want to shout her out just as soon as I find her page again, because like I just searched for it. I have no idea why it's not in my recent searches here. Oh, we have Elisa. I told her she'd come.
Hey. Hi.
Hi. Okay, I was just talking about the paw print earrings that I told you about them a little bit earlier, that inspired this kitty cat earring design that I want to do tonight. So it's from, the woman's name's Rachel. Her shop you can find on Facebook at Hookla Now or Hookla Moo, something like that, designs. It's KOUKLA space MOU designs. And I am definitely going to put a link to that in the description when I edit the description of this video, because I can't even figure out how to pronounce it. I don't expect everybody to remember how to spell it. But she's not doing a lot recently, but she has some really gorgeous designs. She has some really adorable designs. She was definitely the one who inspired me to look into how I could make actual metal work from home. Not just beading. Beading is great. I love beading. I love resin, but she's the one who inspired me to look into learning silversmithing. And she has a bunch, some of her more recent things, and by more recent, I mean within 2022, are footballs and she had footballs, basketballs, and baseballs. And she most recently posted a picture of her first draft of a soccer ball, which I think she's still working on refining. But anyway, check her stuff out. She's great. I will put a link in the comments below. And I am working on trying to make a little kitty cat face of the same general perspective of not having anything else except for the one single wire wrapping around and also forming the post. So what are you two working on tonight?
I'm just working on the finishing touches of getting my Shopify going.
Nice.
Yeah, just the finer details.
Yeah.
I'm working on a beaded necklace pattern. This is all I've got so far. Mind you, I'm going off of a picture. So it's like I don't even have a pattern to look at. I'm going off of a picture and going my own way on this.
Hey, sounds good to me.
We'll see how it turns out.
I'm trying to also write down like lengths of everything that I do on this so that I remember it later. I can actually make them the same way. All right. So this week we read by read I by read I mean read, by we I mean other people read. I mostly read. We read / partially skimmed. Lisa, did you finish the reading?
I got halfway through part 3, to be honest.
Okay, cool. So
Um,
we definitely are all capable of talking about through part 2.
Yes. If I'll be honest, I might
We-
pass out at some point after work.
We may have to do a general overview of part 3 and then a deeper review of it before doing 4 and 5 next week.
Probably a good idea.
I don't know. What are your overall like thoughts, feelings, whatever about this? Are you enjoying it? Are you?
Oh, I definitely am. It's intriguing. I like how. So I'm like trying to figure out what the creatures are. They're mentioned on Devil Reef, and they're mentioned as demons, but I don't think we've really gotten a picture for what they've looked like at this point.
No, but we have gotten a name that we know from a different story of the same title. The same title as the name of the god that they're worshiping.
I did read something about Cthulhu. Yes.
No, Dagon.
Dagon. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
the Church of Dagon or
Yeah.
something like that.
It's the order of what is it?
Order of Dagon, that's what it is. Yep.
Order of something of Dagon. I thought
Yeah.
there was another word in there. They don't know. They don't know what they are.
What I thought was quite weird was they were talking about people going missing and a submarine shooting missiles near the reef, and it just that part of the very very beginning confused me, and I'm hoping that near the end of the story they bring that back and like why was that information necessary?
I'm assuming it was to attack the demons.
In theory, he happened to be there at the same time that like outsiders decided that they weren't going to put up with having Innsmouth there anymore or something. But it's also kind of a lot of like rumor about what happened, and nobody really knows for sure, like who wasn't there, what happened that night. They assumed that it had something to do with like bootlegging alcohol. They assumed that it had, this or that or whatever, but they don't really know. Whereas the narrator was there and knows, so it's possible that the knowing about torpedoes being shot off and things could be what other people assumed, but it was actually like the fish people swimming through the water really fast or something.
Well, they said that was posted by a widely discredited newspaper, and all I could think of was like the National Enquirer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought of too. But what I was thinking is it's a widely discredited newspaper, but because they believe in stuff like this, and I
So
suspect
like Men in
that,
Black, you read the fake tabloid and it's all
Yeah.
true basically.
Yes, exactly like that. Like, yeah, go to the regular papers. They get something. They get lucky every once in a while, but you really want to know what's going on.
Read the crazy stories.
Gotta read the tabloids, man. Gotta read the tabloids.
So you notice that the guy never spoke or said that he spoke. Like he I don't know if I didn't notice this in other stories, but like he doesn't speak. Like he'll say that he asked them this, but there's no quotations for him speaking.
Right. Well, I think that it's very different from how we write narration today. But I think that it's the kind of attempt of making it seem, what's the word? Like more conversational, I guess. Like if somebody's talking to you about something that they did or said, they're more likely to just kind of, so then I asked him about this, and he said blah blah blah, rather than like, so what are you doing? I said, and like people don't talk that way. So I think that it's probably trying to make it seem more like conversational. But also it was for quite a while, really. It's really fairly new to not do this. The dialogue, the way that we have it today, is I want to say really within the past, well, I was going to say 50 years, but my brain is going from 2000, so like 70 years. But it was for a really long time. It was a lot more common to write chunks of what one person said and then chunks of what another person said, and the reasonable intellectual reader or whatever would keep it all kind of in their brain and know that like the actual conversation wouldn't have sounded like that. It would have involved more back and forth, but rather than writing the full back and forth. And I suspect that that's also because paper used to be so much more expensive, and by keeping it in a chunk rather than enter after each time that somebody says something, or like by like the parts where he's like, oh, and why is it so avoidable, you ask? Well, because that way they don't have to have the extra like enters and using up more paper and more space in magazines and whatever they were published in, to keep it reading as a dialogue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No idea what makes sense. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, that's like I said, a fairly recent change
In literary perspective.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I need to put this on here. It's news. Okay. So I was kind of amused by this whole perspective, or this concept of I was doing this because I was celebrating coming of age, and I was making my travels of celebrating coming of age. Mostly amused by it because I've only, with my love of British literature, I've only ever known that in the context of like a British gentleman making his tour of the continent or something, as they would say. And I'm assuming that this whole like, and as my coming of age, I was making this tour of New England and everything. I'm assuming that that's similarly because of like basically rich kids could like they couldn't give them a car really as reasonably back then. So they sent them off on a big trip touring the whichever area, the European continent, the some portion of America, whatever. I don't think it's a bad thing to do either. It smacks very, very much of rich kid.
Yeah. Not a lot of people have money to just go traveling.
Yeah. Like if if you heard somebody say like, oh, I after we graduate, I'm gonna go backpacking across Europe or whatever, and like there's a certain kind of person, kind of background that comes to mind when you hear that somebody's even able to consider that an option.
I honestly think backpacking through other countries has become a lot harder over the years.
That's true. Okay, this is
Mostly,
going.
the cost of everything has gone up, and even people used to like let people stay for free or for cheap in places, and now they don't do that anymore.
Yeah. But it's also like they do kind of come up with alternative versions of that when this isn't really a thing anymore, but now there's Airbnb, and now there are hostels, and so I think there are options there. But like for us, I mean, even right when we were graduating high school, like going and staying in a hostel sounds very much like voluntarily going and staying somewhere that you would end up if you were homeless. But for somebody who's like always been in a really, really, really comfortable lifestyle, it's like, oh, this is this really cool, fun thing that like I can do because I'm a kid and have that freedom to do this, and it's going to be so cool. I have a very high opinion of this, in case you can't tell. It just weirds me out every time I hear people talking about like people staying in hostels or something, and I'm like it sounds like a group home, or it sounds like a homeless shelter. How is this something people are going and paying to stay in? Ugh. Okay. Where were we?
Gone way off topic.
Big shock of the day. Caroline got distracted. Seriously, where were we?
We were talking about how he was coming of age and traveling.
Right, yeah. That traveling in New England because coming of age, and but it so much of it, and I mean, this is one of Lovecraft's later works, as it seems has been the case going further through this. It's kind of chronologically in accordance with how it was written, and it's he still, even though he must have been much older than this, he's at the point that he wrote this one, he still kept that, like, a lot of things in it that definitely smack of somebody who is youthful and feels the need to go be the adult that he just became without fully understanding all of that. And so he's like, oh, there's this town that's like super creepy and everybody's terrified of. Think
Yeah, I'm
I'll
gonna
go
go
explore
visit.
that one with that almost like sense of like what's the word, invulnerability that a lot of like teenagers and early 20s tend to demonstrate, like, the bad thing won't happen to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I never felt that way, but I can understand what you're saying.
I don't think I ever acted that way because of various life circumstances that made it entirely unreasonable to do so. But I think that I always had a little bit of that sense of like, the bad thing's not going to happen to me. Nobody I know is going to die in a car accident. Nobody I know is going to have cancer. Nobody I know is going to whatever. And honestly, I probably would have retained that sense more into my 20s, but it was pretty well knocked out of me my junior year of high school when my grandmother had cancer. One classmate the summer before, or the summer right after, one of those, drowned. One classmate committed suicide. One classmate was in a car accident in which her boyfriend died, and she was in like major rehab for a year. Like, oh no, yeah, I already mentioned that one. So it was like all those things that you feel like, never gonna happen to me. Even if like one of them happens, it's like, okay, but like that's a separate category, okay, like this one, classmate committed suicide, but like nobody I know is gonna have cancer. It couldn't happen to me. Or like Elphaba. I was like, I need him in cell. Like Elphaba says in Wicked, it couldn't happen here in Oz. And it's very much that youthful, oh no, like I have great hope for everything and it's not gonna happen here. And it definitely can. And a lot of the things that he said gave that sense of like, and other people were scared of this, but I was like, nothing's going to happen to me. And other people couldn't get him to talk. And I was like, ooh, I can be the one to discover this. I can be the one to whatever. I have one done. It's very hard to hold up in any way that you can actually see, but I have one done.
Ooh, nice.
I've gotten this far.
Sticking up right there. It's very nice though. I
don't
really
have
like
anything physical to show today.
Yeah,
so.
but you will have a physical link to share once it's done. So
yes, I will.
I mean, that's a thing. All right, now the big question: can I make this the same way again? Actually, I'm trying to make it 4 times, sort of. Because I'm going to make the 2 for my niece, and then I'm going to make 2 more for my sister-in-law and hang paw print ones from it as the dangles, like 4 little paw prints hanging down, maybe with like a little pink or purple, depending on what I can find from my tiny beads, little bead in each of the like. Trying to put this paw print up where you can actually see it without my nail polish getting in the way. But each of the little curls of the toes, we put like a little bead in each of those, so it's like little toe beans. Toe beans. Let's see if I can manage to actually get my leg. Okay. Yeah, so then what?
So the guy goes to the town that nobody goes to. But I found it weird that he found a couple people to talk to that apparently visit this town like almost daily. Like the guy who worked in the grocery store. Like
yeah, that definitely surprised me. That one threw me off for sure. I was like, I thought like nobody went here.
Why is there a guy in a grocery? I don't know if I thought the stories were older than they really were, even though it said 1927. I'm thinking like, why are there buses and cars in grocery stores?
1927, that's pretty much the same as like 1812, right?
It was almost a century ago, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that. I have that same reaction sometimes. I lost my file.
Oh no, not the file.
Fell off the table, but my workshop's a mess as always, so like trying to find it.
My office is the same.
It's one of my mini files.
My office is very much the same. Good luck trying to find anything when you need it.
Right. I love my mini jewelry making stuff. Like my mini anvil and my mini files. They just make me happy. Oh yeah, let me just pause to say, wouldn't be Lovecraft without major racism.
Right? I noticed that again.
Right.
The town
Like-
didn't like any outsiders at all.
Right. And like, so everybody's like, well, who knows what kind of foreign people they brought in when the boats were still running, and could have married somebody from wherever, and can't even tell what race they are, and like taking all of these like horrible racist things and then turning it into because they really were that different is like, woof. Make sure that this is well rounded and not going to stab my niece on the way through her ear.
That'd be nice.
I'm doing standard earrings are 20 gauge. I've done it for myself with 22 gauge before, and I'm doing these ones as 22 gauge because the only 20 gauge wire I have is only silver plated, and I think is nickel on the inside, and I don't want to end up like with it wearing off and then her having a reaction to something underneath. I don't know if she reacts to metals or not. Some people do, some don't.
Yeah, I try to use as much nickel free as possible just in case.
Yeah.
It's like I don't advertise it as nickel free because I'm not 100% sure on all the pieces, but I do
Yeah.
try to get as much nickel free as possible.
Mm-hmm. Same. Okay. Right. Which direction do I do this? I just did this like 2 seconds ago. Should be able to do it again, right?
I'm not entirely sure how I like this, but this is how it's coming out. Yeah.
I like it.
Not
Lisa
even
went
halfway
away.
done.
Lisa went away. But she's
It's
back.
my 7:30 alarm. It goes off and it kicks me out of the Zoom for a minute.
Oh, also the constant like the educated people know better than to believe this, but those silly people who believe in whatever.
How dare you believe in the unknown? How foolish.
And even though it's so often in any Lovecraft where he's saying that, it turns out that the people who believed in these things were the ones who are right, but there's still this sense that like everything he's exploring is like, what if it turns out that the stupid people were right? You know, like that's totally how it feels to me.
Oh, when you guys get to the end of the third chapter of this story, it gets a little interesting. I'm probably the one who actually read the end of the chapter.
I skimmed to it. I saw a lot of yelling. Yeah, and then oh, that's what I need to.
Funny. I was like, I was thought like, because he said he ran screaming out of the town. So when the screaming started at the end of chapter 3, I was assuming he was going to start running out of town. But no, he didn't.
Nah, there's still 2 more parts. He couldn't go running out yet.
Right?
Not yet.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Give it time. Give it time.
My needle did a flip and it only lost 1 bead.
Only losing 1 bead is good. Losing none would be better, but I mean, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever seen those like beating bowls? I don't remember if I asked you about this or not. They're
Eating
like
what?
the spinning beating bowls. You have like whatever you're beating onto, either you're going onto a wire, or if you're going onto something else, you have like a wire or a hooked needle, like a long one at the end. And you just spin the bowl full of seed beads and stick the end of the wire or needle into it. And it just like collects up the seed beads inside the spinning bowl. And then like when it's full, you stop and pull them on. It goes in like whatever, if you have like mixed colors in there, it keeps it fairly well randomized instead of being in a set pattern or something. Or if you're doing everything all the same color, it's just getting them all on there. So if you're doing like long strings of seed beads, it gets them on so fast.
Yeah.
I don't have one, but I've watched videos of them multiple times because it's kind of mesmerizing.
Yeah, no, I don't have that. I just put all the beads on by hand.
Hard work, man. But me too. Although I don't do as much beading either. Just because I tend to get bored with beading partway through.
This entire necklace is beads. Like little tiny seed beads. I mean, most of my necklaces are beads. But these ones are little bit seed beads.
My father once made my mother a beaded collar. It was a lot of seed beads, but it also had some bigger beads, like the snowflake beads and a few others. And it was like a full, like, collar style necklace, like to like here, and just all beads all along there. I think it took him like 3 months at least. It was pretty cool though. Okay. I don't know, a lot of what I like skimmed past just seemed like he was just describing there's this rundown thing and there's that rundown thing and this other thing, it's also rundown.
There are also several pages of him talking to people and them describing all the things going on with town.
Yeah. It's like in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I only made it halfway through that book. I love Jules Verne in so many ways, but he like wanted to prove that there was all of this science to go with his science fiction, like science fiction heavy on the science. And so he had like, there's a full page of the guy like okay, I watch way too much space set science fiction. My brain's trying to say spacewalk, but not that. Underwater deep sea diving. And basically just walking on the ocean floor and describing, I saw this fish and that fish and this fish and this other fish, and then there's that fish and then there's this fish. You finally get through all the fish he saw, and then there's like a whole page of, and there was this seaweed and there was this seaweed and there was this seaweed and there was that coral and then this other coral and the 12 billion other kinds of coral. And I was like, I stopped reading it. I was like, I'm renaming this book 20,000 Fish Under the Sea. Which makes more sense anyway, because the Earth isn't even 20,000 leagues in diameter. My physics teacher and I did research and math to figure that out back in high school.
It was
Like,
a
you can't even
fictional
be
book.
20,000 leagues under the sea. What?
It was a fictional book.
I
Shout out to
know.
all the Vernians out there.
I love Journey to the Center of the Earth. And I love so much about Jules Verne's imagination. But 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea just has way too much. And let me describe every single thing under the ocean to you. And the other one, Around the World in 80 Days, has zero character development for the main character. And he was this complacent, laid-back guy, and he got all the way around the world, and he was still this complacent, laid-back guy who changed nothing about his life at all.
Yeah, I think the movie with Jackie Chan was much better.
I love that. I love that one so much. I as the bibliophile that I am, I always feel bad saying, no, I liked the movie better than the book. But like, in that case, I don't feel bad about it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be right back.
Speaking of movies and books and differences, did you know that they are remaking Aragon as a series? And the writer of the Aragon book series is actually going to be in the process of writing and producing the series.
I did not. Are you going to be mad at me if I tell you that I've never actually seen or read Aragon?
No, honestly. It was like 10 years ago and the movie came out and it stunk so bad.
I've heard that.
Like, I think a standalone, it would have been a good movie. But I think the biggest thing that infuriated me the most about the Aragon movie is that in the book, Saphira is the dragon, and they always describe her wings as a thin membrane, which makes you think of like bat wings, a
Yeah.
thin membrane.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
in the movie, they decided to give her big, feathery bird wings.
Ugh. Why
And
would
I'm
you?
like, what dragon has ever had feathery bird wings?
I mean, and even if you want to make a dragon with feathery bird wings, like, don't do it with one that's been so distinctly described this other way.
And yeah. And it was just, there was a lot of differences from the book that the second book had come out and there was no way that they could make a second movie because of all the changes that they had done to the first movie.
Yep.
In the book. They had cut out several main characters, several main plot points.
But that's also why I have never watched all the way through Ella Enchanted. Like, almost any book that I love, I can watch the movie and I can like separate it. Like, okay, like as the movie, it's good, even though it doesn't follow these things in the book.
So different.
I was so obsessed with that book and I was literally writing a screenplay for it. So like there was no coming back for me. Like I could not. And I love Anne Hathaway and I wanted so much to love that movie. But like
I love the movie.
they like turned things into all these like modernized jokes way too much. And like compressed like basically in the entire actual adventure of it into
to me, they're two totally separate stories.
Moment.
Yeah. I've read and seen the movie and read the book, and they're so completely different. It's hard to say that the movie was based off the book because they're so completely different.
That's exactly my thing with it, is that like I love that book so much, and I should, by like knowing myself, knowing what other things I've done this with, I feel as though I should be able to watch it and enjoy it for, a Cinderella movie starring Anne Hathaway that includes somebody who has to be obedient and has a really fiery temper. I should be able to, but it's too many of the like names and everything, and I can't. I practically memorized that book at one point. Like there's no way for my brain to separate it when I try to watch it. So
it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I saw the movie first and I found out it was a book and I was like, oh, cool. The books are always better than the movies. And it was just so different. It was such a shock to me.
Yeah.
Like even the end was completely different. I do like kind of how the way the movie did the end and made her to not be obedient again, but the book was just so different.
I never made it to the end of the movie. I don't think I made it more than 10 minutes into the movie because I was like, I'm just going to be angry this whole time and it's not worth that. Like, I'd rather let it just exist without me.
That's fine. I mean, I wouldn't force anybody who doesn't want to watch it to watch it. I mean, there are several movies that I will not watch.
Kate Mulgrew, who plays Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager, she plays Red in Orange is the New Black. trying to think what else. I think she's in some episodes of Warehouse 13, but I've never actually watched that. At one Star Trek con, I was watching a video of it on YouTube, and as people were asking her, or at her panel, people were asking her different questions, and one person said, I've watched literally every single thing you've ever been in, and I've loved it all. I cannot get into Orange is the New Black. Do you have any advice for me for like how to watch it to be able to get into it? And this woman, star of Star Trek and like major character on Orange is the New Black, and Kate Mulgrew, Lisa, and all of her different things that she's done. I mean, she had Ryan's Hope. It's a soap opera, but the first 2 years of it, she played the oldest daughter of the Ryan family. When they tried to make a Mrs. Columbo, they failed, but she knocked it out of the park playing Mrs. Columbo. And to have so many roles that she's originated, and she's done so much theater acting, and she's just brilliant. And she was just like to this fan saying, I've literally watched every single thing you've ever done, and I just can't get into Orange is the New Black. Like, tell me how to get into it. And she said, don't. If it's not your thing, don't watch it. Life's too short to spend time trying to force yourself to like something you don't like. If you don't like it, don't watch it. She's like, you don't have to watch it just because I'm in it. You can do something that you want to be doing instead.
Like, I appreciate your support, but I don't want you to force yourself to do something you hate. Like,
Right. I love that. I love because I know that there are actors, even if it was jokingly, but like, I mean, to be an actor, there's a certain amount of ego that you have to have, not necessarily to be capable of acting, but to be capable of making it in that world that's so rigorous in so many ways. And so I don't like begrudge them this, but I definitely know a whole lot of actors would have responded to that like, well, isn't the fact that I'm in it enough or something, even just like jokingly? But she's just like, then don't watch it. Like, it's fine. I'm fine with it. My career isn't going to tank because you don't like one series that I'm in. I'm not offended that you don't like it. Like, you've watched all these other things that I've been in. That's awesome. Don't force yourself to watch something you don't like. So, speaking of something we don't like, I'm starting to think none of us like this so far because I just keep derailing everything.
I really enjoy it. Like the first act, I really liked how it was very like small town, even though it was Newport, was it Newport, Newark?
Newark?
I was, huh?
Nope.
Where he was.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I was thinking.
I think it was Newport.
Newark.
I think
It was Newport. Because the bus said Newport. Like New.
yeah.
Anyway, I liked how Newburyport. There we go.
Newburyport. I was like, I feel like we're
Newburyport.
missing something. I couldn't see what it was.
I like how he just like he's asking about his ticket about the bus driver, and then he asks about Innsmouth, and he's like, it was so small town. All of a sudden he's like prepared this whole story about the town that everybody avoids. It's so
Yeah.
small town to be like, I'm not really gonna talk about anything except this topic.
Yep.
And I just felt like it was very.
We don't talk about Innsmouth. No.
It's like, well, we don't go there, but we know all about it. It's like, never been there myself.
Never been there. Don't care to.
That is definitely
Ain't get there from here.
small mind right there. The small town mind right there.
I mean, this is all Massachusetts. This is all in Massachusetts. This is like, with interstates today, like 3 hours from us. 3-4 hours. Back then, for travel time, it would have been, a day at least,
It
probably.
took 4 hours from Newburyport to Innsmouth, so that's how I'm pronouncing it.
Yep,
Innsmouth.
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 Yeah. Innsmouth, Innsmouth, and Innsmouth.
I'm doing Innsmouth. I'm weird.
Okay, go for it. I'm
Innsmouth.
not telling you not to. I'm saying I could genuinely
I
see
thought
it being
even
pronounced
over my-
whichever way.
I just kept pronouncing it as Innsmouth in my head, so
Works for me. Anyway, it's fascinating to me reading stuff like that. Like when he was writing stuff in dialect, like it's funny because when you start like writing out New England dialect, I don't care if it's Maine, Boston, like nobody can mimic it correctly. I've lived in Maine my whole life, and because I don't have that like distinct Maine accent, I cannot mimic it correctly. Like I've tried, I just sound like a bad extra from Murder, She Wrote.
I can speak Mainer pretty good, but I've worked really hard to not sound like a Mainer. That you can't really tell 90% of the time. At least I don't think you can. Maybe other people can tell I'm a Mainer.
I mean, I can, but definitely not to the extreme of like most people I know. And the only reason that I can is because I grew up around all these people who speak that way, and I have no idea why I don't. None of my siblings and I do.
So from a very young age, I was very big on grammar and how to say things correctly. So like, I don't speak Mainer very often, but I can.
Yeah.
Like, and I was the annoying twin that just spoke it just to annoy her. So
occasionally it does slip in, like I'll pronounce my R's weird or things like that. Occasionally it'll slip in when I'm talking, but for the most part, I try and be grammatically correct.
I mean, that's probably a big part of what it is for me too. Not just for me personally, but because like my family is like that in general. And like my mother will slip into a Maine accent more than anybody, but she'll tell us, like we're going to a football game at Hosmer Field, and she's like, all right, well, when we get down to Hosmer, I'm gonna grab a soda. Like, your R just landed in entirely the wrong part of that sentence. But anyway, that was the funny thing, reading the like writing and dialect of this. All I could hear in my brain was like the bad accents in Murder, She Wrote.
oh, bad accents. The woman who plays Suki in True Blood. I loved the book series. Watching the show,
could not watch it because of her.
I could not watch it because of her accent.
But anyway,
I know not of what we speak. Is this a thing I should be watching?
If
It's
you
about
want,
vampires. I mean, it's
about
yeah,
vampires
vampires aren't my cup of. Any like the undead type stuff, like there are certain interesting elements, but just overall not my cup of.
There's vampires and werewolves. Basically, the premise is vampires have come out of the hiding and they're known, and werewolves haven't yet. It's a whole premise.
And,
but
and then there's people who are half fairy.
I mean, I have a shirt that has it broken down all my ethnicities, like what percentage of me is Hobbit and what percentage is mermaid and what percentage is cyborg. Although I think it should be android that I had on that, but I don't. I have cyborg there. And what else do I have in there? I always say I have fairy feet. Speaking of Ellen Enchanted, I always say I have fairy feet specifically because of the fairies in Ellen Enchanted having tiny feet.
You mean the book, not the movie?
A lot.
I mean the book because the movie is anathema.
The movie is great, but it's not the same as the book.
The
No.
movie is a different story, but I can't separate it enough in my brain, so it is anathema. I do not acknowledge its validity. And also, Anne Hathaway was like 10 years too old to be playing that part, even though I love Anne Hathaway.
I know, right?
One of Princess Diaries, I felt she was a little too old to be playing Princess Diaries as well.
Well,
Yeah.
she was only, I think she was 18 at the time, with Princess Diaries. And because the like high school age students who are, kids who are actually under 18, were
There's a lot of restrictions on what they can do in
yeah,
acting.
that's what I was trying to say. Like they couldn't stay on set as long, so she would have to, like, they would film them first, and she'd end up on set crazy late because she was a year older, and they couldn't keep the 17-year-old on set, but they could keep the 18-year-old on set. My big thing with Princess Diaries, and I adore Princess Diaries, and I don't hate the like makeover thing, only because she doesn't gain the confidence from the makeover, and that's when I hate them. Like, oh, now she's pretty, so now she can blah blah blah. But because she doesn't gain the confidence from the makeover, she has to like continue to learn and come into herself and gain that confidence separately. So I don't hate that, but the hair drives me nuts because I just want to, like, I mean, it was a wig, but I'm like, I would just want to teach you how to take care of curly hair, because that's not it. It would not be so frizzy or hard to deal with.
Neither one of her parents had that kind of frizzy hair, so it doesn't make sense that she would have that super kind of frizzy hair.
Her dad has dark hair and her mom has curly hair, but she keeps it really short.
Yeah.
So I could see having her hair that long. I could see it being like that. But I'm not sure having her hair that long was her best option if she doesn't know how to take care of her curls. But again, her mom has. Anyway, so I just found my Fancestry DNA results that I made. 31% fairy, as in the Levian variety of fairy, 28% Vulcan, 21% Tolkien elf, 11% Hobbit, 6% mermaid, and 3% cyborg. But yeah, I'm definitely mostly fairy and Vulcan. That's why I have pixie elegance.
I have pixie products, but that's because of my ear. So someone said my ear, because it has a bump on it, looks like a pixie ear. So
I'm all for it. Plus, I'm slowly roping you into my business anyway, so it's just mercenary. It'll be fine.
become a subsidiary.
What?
I can't think of the word. My brain's not working.
Subsidiary.
Subsidiary?
Subsidiary. Thank you.
I was like, did we just go into like a generic club music in a video game? Like,
Dubstep.
dubstep. There was something that was, the dude, Zadok.
The old
Zadok.
dude who told the story.
Zadok. Zadok. I don't know.
The 96-year-old man who was a town drunk.
I was like, is this a real name? I've never seen this name. Anyway, and he didn't even have babynames.com to be searching for character names on.
They made up half of them.
There was one part of his description of him that amused me, and when we talked before about the octogenarians and nonagenarians, and I think he referred to him as a nonagenarian, as in like in his 90s. But when I first read it, I read it as non-genarian, as in like some age that we just don't know. And I kind of like that reading of it better. There was one other thing in something. While, as that says, the natives met the things on the little volcanic islet, going there in canoes with sacrifices, etc., etc. I just, the way that it's all written, and like that's all I can hear. I'm not finding the other thing that I wanted to mention. I had to go have my car inspected, and they were like, but it might take a while because it's the end of the day. And I was like, cool, I'll just sit in the waiting room and read. I'm perfectly fine with this. And so I was like, I can get this read in that time. That's fine. Except my mechanic is my sister-in-law, my husband's sister's father-in-law. And so he like wanted to sit down and chat and catch up. And I mean, I wanted to know about do stuff in their lives also. I just was like, but reading. And then I got home and was like, okay, I got to finish this reading. And my husband and children wanted to have every possible conversation with me. And it's just like, nobody wants me to finish reading.
That's okay. I got the chapters at 5:30 this morning. Thank you. Or 5:55 this morning. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Because I don't have the book, so Lisa takes pictures of the pages and sends them to me. And so I got the pages at 5:55 this morning.
Nice. Oh, I'm gonna check. So we've got the second half of Shadow over Innsmouth, and then we have the Hunter of the Dark, and then we are done. So next time we'll do the second half of this, and then the Hunter in the Dark, and then I believe we are moving on to Little Women after we finish it.
Yes.
Right?
I got 4
Right.
more weeks of this, and then Little Women. Yay.
4 more weeks, like 2 more sessions of it. I was like only 2 more. Oh yeah, 4 more weeks, 2 sessions, 4.
4 more
Yeah.
weeks. Well, I'm gonna get to the halfway point in my necklace. See,
Nice.
I got the little V now. I can start doing the other half.
I got 2 kitties done, but they're very slightly different in size. So I'm trying to see if I can make 2 more, 1 in each size, so that for the 2 pairs of earrings, they'll have something that they actually match better. And then what I was going to say, I have a copy of Little Women, but I have to check. I might have 2 copies of it. So if I do, I will let you guys know. But if I don't, the used bookstore in downtown will be a really great place to look for it, to get it like super cheap, because there's a high probability that they'd have a copy. I mean, it's not a guarantee, obviously, but it's a fairly high probability that they'd have a copy of it. Unless you guys already have a copy, in which case it's a moot point anyway.
I don't have a copy of it.
All right, I need to cut that there. Anything else we wanted to talk about before we hang up, or at least in the live stream?
I'm very excited about reading the third one. I did start reading that one, and I'm really excited to talk about that one next time.
The second half of the
3rd chapter.
Oh, the 3rd chapter that neither of us read.
Yeah, I read the first half of it, and I really liked it. So,
I I skimmed it enough to have a general concept of like, I feel like this is the first chapter I could really get into, and I have half an hour till this starts, and I just lost the earring I was working on. Also, is totally a word.
I had to choose between eating and reading, so I ate and then skimmed the rest of it. I was hungry. Okay.
I just showed you guys 2 earrings, and then I set 2 earrings down, and now I have 1 earring there. No, I lost the one that I was working on, but now I only have 1 sitting there. I think it got caught up in something. I found it.
Yay.
Whew. Okay, before I lose something again, let's go ahead and end this video call. And